Daniel Sports Central, we go for a college football game preview and prediction on the big matchup coming up here in the SEC in Week 9 of this 2022 college football season. And this could be for the Kentucky Wildcats and the Tennessee Vols. Huge matchup for both these teams coming up here in Week 9. You got Kentucky, who's 5-2 on the season. This team is ranked in the top 20 right now despite losing 2 of their past 3, but they've got a huge opportunity here coming up in Week 9 as they take on Tennessee, who's ranked number 3 in the country right now. Tennessee is 7-0. And this team could very well be the best team in the nation right now. So it's a crucial matchup for both these teams as we look forward to Week 9. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting with your team, Trans. Kentucky, they beat Mississippi State 27-17 a couple of weeks ago. They had a bye week for Week 8, so they're coming off of a bye, which could be to their benefit for sure. But they're 5-2 on the season. Once again, they've lost 2 of their past 3. They took a couple of disappointing losses, losing to Ole Miss by 3 and then to South Carolina by 10. But obviously, that was a great bounce-back win to beat Mississippi State, the 16th-ranked team in the nation at the time. As for Tennessee, they completely destroyed UT Martin, beating them 65-24. That game was like 52-0 at halftime. I mean, Tennessee, they just fired on all cylinders there in the first half and cruised to a win. But Tennessee, this is a team that obviously they beat Alabama a couple of weeks ago, 52-49. That was a massive victory for the Vols, taking down Alabama, who is widely thought of to be a massive national contender. And Tennessee is in that position right now. The Alabama was just in. Tennessee is the national contender right now. This team is, in my opinion, for real. And I think Tennessee is a team that should be taken seriously. Now, I could see this team potentially making a run for a national title, which sounds crazy, but I mean, Tennessee, this is a team that is in a great position right now. And so just a matter of staying consistent and obviously not taking any unexpected losses. That's obviously a key factor, especially if you want to make it to the college football playoff, leading to eventually a potential national title. Games be on Saturday, October 29th in Knoxville, Tennessee, so the Vols do have the home field advantage here. And your kickoff is 7 p.m. Eastern. Spreads going Tennessee here by 12.5. So the Vols are favored here by almost a couple of touchdowns, over under 63.5. And the FPI is going Tennessee as well, 82.9%. So the Vols are favored in this matchup by a decent margin, not too surprising, but obviously you couldn't be surprised to see this game be close as well. I mean, Kentucky is a team that is definitely one of the more talented teams in the SEC. Obviously, they've taken 2 losses to this point, but I still think Kentucky is a team to keep an eye on. Do not underestimate the Wildcats, that's for sure. Series history, Tennessee leads at 82-26. So, I mean, yeah, Tennessee has had a very successful history against Kentucky. And I was doing some research. I mean, there's a period between 1985 and 2010 where Kentucky did not win once. That's a winning streak of, I mean, that's over 20 games there. That was like 25 games. But nonetheless, since then, Kentucky's won a few. Tennessee has won 3 out of the past 5, and they also won last year's matchup that was in Lexington, 45-42. So Tennessee has had overwhelming success in the overall history, even though in recent history Kentucky has won a couple of games. Second comparison for this one, Kentucky 76th in points per game. They're 15th in points allowed. So defensively, Kentucky's a strong team as they've allowed an average of 16 points a game, which is quite honestly an outstanding stat there. And then they are getting 26 points per game, which is basically half of what Tennessee is getting right now. Tennessee is averaging 50 points a game. Kentucky's averaging 26, which isn't terrible, but in comparison to Tennessee, it certainly is nothing. But yeah, Kentucky 62nd in passers a game, 94th in rush yards a game, and then for yards allowed, 15th in passing, 34th in rushing. So once again, a solid defense so far this season here in Kentucky. And as for Tennessee, this team is excellent on both sides of the ball, especially on offense. This team, once again, averaging 50 points a game. They're allowing 23, which puts them 35th in the nation there in points allowed. They're 3rd in passers a game. Obviously, you got Hendon Hooker, who has thrown for over 2,000 yards already, almost 2,100 with 18 touchdowns, only 1 pick. And it's pretty amazing seeing how Hendon Hooker has come around over the past couple of years with Tennessee. The Virginia Tech transfer, it wasn't a big standout with the Hokies, but he transferred to Tennessee, and he has become simply an elite quarterback. Tennessee 35th in points allowed. They're 3rd in passers a game, 23rd in rush yards a game, and then for yards allowed, they're 131st in pass yards allowed. This is an extreme outlier here. I mean, it's like this team is in the top 35 in every single category, but then they're dead last in passing defense. This team is allowing 329 pass yards a game, which could come back to bite at the end of the day when they're taking on some outstanding teams. Obviously, Alabama had their way, scoring 49 points on the Vols, but in the end, the offense was able to handle it and get the win there. But I mean, yeah, Tennessee, this passing defense allowing they're 131st in the nation, allowing 330 just about pass yards a game. So that is dead last in the FBS. But they're 6th in rush yards allowed. They're allowing 90 rush yards a game, which is overall a pretty outstanding stat. Your recent matchups, Kentucky, they beat Mississippi State 27-17. Once again, they took 2 losses prior to that, losing to South Carolina 14-24 and losing to Ole Miss 19-22. They beat Northern Illinois 31-23 and beat Youngstown State 31-0. So, I mean, this team they've been a little bit inconsistent down the stretch, but they've gotten a couple of good wins, that's for sure. And as for Tennessee, beat Alabama 52-49. Obviously, the signature win there. They beat LSU 40-13. Turns out LSU is a pretty good football team. That team is sitting at 6-2 right now. LSU that's a good football team, and Tennessee completely dominated them 40-13. And they beat Florida a couple of weeks before that 38-33. Beat Akron as well 63-6. Your key points for this one: Kentucky 5-2, coming off of an impressive win over Mississippi State. Once again, Bulldogs are a team that really rose quickly. They had a couple of huge wins, and as quickly as they rose, they fell. I mean, Mississippi State has suddenly taken a couple more losses, and now with 3 losses, they've fallen out of the rankings. But still an outstanding win for Kentucky there. And despite having 2 losses, I'd still say Kentucky is a threat. This team is, their odds of winning a division or, getting to Atlanta for the SEC championship are slim to none now. I mean, it's pretty much gone for Kentucky having taken 2 losses. But, Kentucky, this is still a team that I could see having 9 wins at the end of the day, and that gets you to a pretty good bowl game. So, the Wildcats are still a threat. I still think this team is capable of doing big things, and, if that's upsetting Tennessee, potentially that could be it. But defensively, this team has been impressive this season as well, and that defense is going to need to come to play in this game. They're going to need to force turnovers on this offense. Tennessee is averaging 50 points a game. If you can hold them to, even 30, I feel like that's a win for Kentucky at this point. Your offense is going to have to score plenty of points on Tennessee if you want a chance. So, it's going to be a challenger for Kentucky, that's for sure, but this defense will need to play ball in this game, that's for sure. As for Tennessee, 7-0, potentially the best team in the nation. Personally, I think Tennessee is the best team in the nation. I've got them ranked at number 1. I've had them ranked at number 1 the past couple of weeks. I think the Vols, they've got the most impressive resume in the nation right now. They beat Alabama. This is a really good football team here in the Vols, and they're averaging 50 points a game. That is incredible. Seeing what Tennessee is doing and what is a brutal conference in the SEC. And Hendon Hooker, he's emerging as an elite quarterback. Pretty crazy to see that. Obviously, once again, if you think about it, a couple of years ago, wasn't a big standout at Virginia Tech, and he comes to Tennessee, and suddenly this guy is what you could call an elite quarterback or even a Heisman contender. So Hendon Hooker, got to keep an eye on him. He is outstanding, and obviously you got the outstanding receiver too, Jalen Hyatt, who has put up nearly 800 yards of receiving and 12 touchdowns on the season. He is a major threat there as well. But that said, let's get to the prediction here for Kentucky and Tennessee coming up here in Week 9 in the SEC. And I'm going to go with Tennessee here. 41-24 is my predicted final score. I think Tennessee ends up scoring 40 in this one. I think Kentucky maybe keeps this game close for a while. Maybe the first half, it's a pretty close, maybe back and forth game. But I think in the second half, Tennessee scores a couple of touchdowns, maybe forces a pick 6 or something on Kentucky. And in the end, they get a touchdown there, and they just pull away in the second half. And they get the win 41-24. I think the Vols are, once again, this offense is brutal to stop. They're averaging 50 points a game, and the way that Hendon Hooker and this team is playing right now, they're the hottest team in the country. So it's going to be brutal to stop them. That is for sure in this matchup. And I think Tennessee being at home as well, that only adds to it. So Tennessee 41-24, they get the win in this one. I'll say 60% towards the Vols. You're over under 63.5. I'll take the over for this one. And Tennessee to cover the spread in the end, which is currently 12.5 points towards Tennessee. I do think the Vols cover the spread. I think they win this game by a couple of touchdowns at least. Even though I do think, once again, Kentucky, they're going to keep it close maybe for the first half. But I see this being a game where Tennessee pulls away. Kentucky makes a couple of errors, and Tennessee capitalizes and gets the win in the end, 41-24. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this matchup, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.